Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday, April 24th, 2025 meeting of the Plastow Zoning Board of Adjustment. I call the meeting to order at 6:31. Dee, can you call the roll?
Jim Unger,
Here?
Michael Murray,
Here.
Jim O'Brien,
Here.
Ryan LeBrecq,
Here.
Jason Orsini is excused, Daryl Britton.
Here. I'd like to welcome our two new members, Ryan and Daryl here, and there's, as Dee mentioned, a third new member, Jason, who couldn't be here tonight. Thank you all for helping out.
Thank you.
It's been pretty lonely up here for the last few months. Jim, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have to, actually, first we have to appoint Daryl as a voting member. He's an alternate. That'll make 5 members tonight. We have to approve the minutes of the February 27th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look at them?
Yes.
Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the meetings of the minutes of the February 27th meeting.
Second.
You would call the roll?
Jim Unger,
Yes?
Michael Murray,
Yes.
Jim O'Brien,
Yes.
Ryan LeBrecq,
Yes.
Daryl Britton.
Abstain.
Thank you. Your vote is 4-0-1.
And next we have some business. We're having some reorganization of the zoning board. We have to nominate a chairman and a vice chairman. Can I have a nomination for a chairman?
Yes, I nominate Mr. Unger for chairman of the zoning board.
Do we have a second? or-
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Would you like me to call the roll?
Please.
Michael Murray,
Yes.
Jim O'Brien,
Yes.
Ryan LeBrecq,
Yes.
Daryl Britton,
Yes.
Jim Unger.
Yes.
Your vote is 5-0-0.
Now we need to nominate a vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? Anyone stepping up?
Yes.
I,
Nope. I nominate. My voice is gone here. Can you nominate him? And my voice is gone from it.
I'll nominate Michael Murray as vice chair.
Second.
Are there any other nominations?
No?
Would you like me to call the roll?
Sure can.
Jim O'Brien,
Yes.
Ryan LeBrecq,
Yes.
Daryl Britton,
Yes.
Jim Unger,
Yes.
Michael Murray.
yes.
Your vote is 5-0-0.
Okay, Dee, can you read the meeting procedures?
Sure. Each public hearing will be opened in turn. The applicant will present their case, the board will question, and then the hearing will be open to the public for comment. Once everyone who wishes to be heard has been, that public hearing will be closed. Once a public hearing has been closed, there cannot be any additional input allowed. The board will immediately deliberate on that application before opening another public hearing on any additional applications. There could be times when applications are so interrelated that the chair may decide to hear them simultaneously, but each will be deliberated separately. All motions regarding relief will be made in the affirmative to-grant format for clarity and consistency. The format of the motion should not be considered indicative of how any member, including the maker of the motion or the second to the motion, might vote. Written notices of decision will be sent to the applicant and made available for public viewing within 5 business days. Per the New Hampshire RSAs, if any party of standing feels that the board has erred in their decision, they have 30 days to request a rehearing. No permits will be issued within this 30-day period. The board reserves the right to continue their deliberations on any matter if they feel they need to consult with legal counsel. All decisions will be made in accordance with the New Hampshire RSAs.
Thank you, Dee. I guess we are ready for the first case. Can you call the first case, please?
This case was originally noticed for March 27th, and we didn't have a quorum that night, so it was renoticed for tonight's hearing. This is case number 25-02, a request from Rick's Motorcycle Enterprises, Inc. for a variance from Article 3, Section 22016B to allow a motor vehicle dealership within 1,000 feet of another motor vehicle dealership. The property is located at 22 Danville Road, Tax Map 30, Lot 91, in the C1 Danville Road Overlay Zoning District. The property owner of record is K&S Contractor Supply Company, LLC, and I do have a letter from K&S in the file that authorizes the application.
Okay. Could whoever's speaking for this application come forward and please introduce yourselves?
Whoever's going to be wanting to work the screen probably wants to sit in the other seat.
I don't know that we're going to want to work this.
Okay,
through.
that's
I don't
fine.
think We have a presentation. But thank you. My name is Patrick Green. I'm an attorney from Salway and Hollis representing Rick's Motorcycle Enterprises Incorporated.
I'm Sarah Bassnett, part owner of Rick's Motorcycle.
And I'm sorry, Dee, I wasn't anticipating it would have a full 5-member board, so I only have 5 copies of the application.
Well, I need one for the file, for sure. So I'll grab one from you at the end.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, they have copies of your application.
Well, they do.
We do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Sorry, do you all have copies of the site plan as well?
We do.
Do we?
I don't recall getting a site plan.
Thought we do, right here.
No, that was for the second application.
Oh, okay.
There was not a site plan with the application.
Is this what you're speaking of?
No, that's the tax map.
Tax map, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yours.
Thank you very much, sir.
So I'd like to take just a moment to introduce Rick's Motorcycle Enterprises. It's a small family-owned business.
I'm going to need to ask you to sit
Sorry,
and use the microphone, please.
I'm happy to.
That
Do
way
I-
it goes out to the cable. You don't have to be super close, but you do need to direct it that way.
Is it operating now?
Yes.
Great. All right. So if I can speak to you briefly about Rick's. So again, small family-owned business. It's been in Plaistow for over 30 years now. It's got a current location at 31 Westville Road. Had a previous location at 33 Newton Road. Moved to Salem for about a year. Wasn't for them, and now they want to come back home. Very small-scale business. They do repairs, inspections, a few sales. The motorcycles are always kept indoors. It's not a branded dealer. There's no big Harley signs. It's a modest, understated, small family business. You can see a picture there of what the storefront will look like. It's small. They'll be a good neighbor. They have a good reputation in Plaistow, and they want to keep it that way. This town is home to them. And with that, I'm going to just quickly go through the application we submitted. So first of all, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. The essential character of this neighborhood, it's commercial 1 district with the Danville Road overlay. It's mixed commercial. It's got a variety of uses. There are, as we've come to with this, a few other automotive businesses there. Rick's is in keeping with those. It's not going to threaten the health, safety, the general welfare of the public. On the contrary, by providing inspections and repairs of motor vehicles, it's going to make the place safer and healthier. It will contribute to the town's economic growth. And it's a low impact use compared to traditional automotive dealerships. So one point that I've tried to address in this application is that a motorcycle business is different in kind from most automotive businesses. So where this variance that we're seeking brings us away from the ordinance, it's really to permit a use that oughtn't to be prohibited by this particular provision. RICS is not going to be competing with the other automotive businesses for customers. It offers a different business to different clientele. So the variance will not violate the spirit and intent of the ordinance. Here, the intent of the ordinance, as far as we can see, seems to be to prevent an over-concentration of automotive dealerships. Again, RICS is a much smaller scale business. It's different from existing car dealerships. It's a specialized service that complements the existing business, bringing in new customers to this area. It occupies a much smaller footprint than other automotive businesses. RICS will be showing motorcycles exclusively inside the building. There aren't going to be a bunch of motorcycles parked outside. And motorcycle businesses focus on dedicated amateurs rather than people just passing by test driving. There won't be the same sort of traffic or either foot or vehicle that you'd see with an automotive business. They have less signage, less promotional apparatus, no big wavy signs. There are fewer showings, and there aren't people coming by to take test drives. It's basically a seasonal business. There's a much smaller amount of traffic in the winter, and the ordinance overall is concerned with establishing reasonable business opportunities in Plaistow while creating dedicated areas for such businesses to permit other areas to remain largely or exclusively residential. So this allowing RICS to operate here allows it to operate in Plaistow while keeping the remainder of Plaistow available for residential use. Substantial justice would be served by granting this variance. It's a small family-owned business, and allowing it to operate in Plaistow would promote the economic development, job creation, and community engagement of Plaistow. To prevent it would be to prevent a historically local family-owned business from contributing to the town's growth. The values of surrounding properties would not be diminished. The proposed dealership is consistent with the character of this area. It's not in competition with its neighbours, despite coming under the same heading in the Plaistow zoning ordinance. By bringing in customers and supporting local commerce, the business will likely have a positive impact, and it'll help to diversify the local economy. Again, this area has a lot of car dealerships, but there are very few motorcycle dealerships in Plaistow altogether, and certainly none in the immediate vicinity here. Literal enforcement of the provisions would result in an unnecessary hardship. There is no fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision here and the specific application of that provision to this property. And the proposed use is a reasonable one. So again, this is an ordinance that's trying to prohibit an overconcentration of these large car dealerships. Again, RICS is a very different animal. The proposed use is a very reasonable one. This is another species of a similar-ish sort of business, and it's operating in a commercial area that's well suited to it. The ordinance's 1,000-foot requirement is intended for automotive dealerships, and applying this to a small specialized business fundamentally different from a car dealership does not bear a fair and substantial relationship to its purpose. Hardship arises because the unique nature of the proposed business, low impact, family operated, and serving a niche market doesn't align with the intent of the ordinance's spacing requirements for those larger businesses, nor would it compete with them for customers. Again, this is an extremely reasonable use of this property. I would add that it's a small building. It formerly had a contracting company in it. It can't really be used as a grocery store or an opera house or any other sort of use. It's ideally suited to a small business like this that has a very limited footprint. The property here is in the far corner of this particular district. It won't be affecting other businesses stretching beyond it. And just because of where it is, there's no way to place this business, the actual operating business, further out within this property. It's kind of just stuck there. And the fact that this 1,000-foot provision operates to hit it would just create an undue hardship here. I would add that unfortunately we didn't manage to secure letters in time for the CBA. but the owners of Rick's Motorcycle are familiar with the owners of 14 Danville Road and 21 Danville Road. And they've worked with them for years, and they're sure that they would not object to their being here. And with that, I'd like to open it up to questions, if we could.
Yeah, question for you, sir. Currently they're located on Westville Road. Will this site replace the Westville Road site, or is it in addition?
No, this is in addition. So that the Westville Road site is a warehouse that they've had throughout their 30 years. So basically, they had a storefront in Plastow. They moved to Salem for a bit. Wasn't for them. They want to come back.
Thank you.
Right ahead.
Sorry,
A
Mr.
couple of
Britton.
questions. If this was granted, there'd be nothing stopping them from being able to sell and register vehicles as well as motorcycles.
So the permits, I believe, for a motorcycle business are quite specific, and they're Rick's Motorcycle Enterprises. They have no intention of diverging from what they do.
I understand, but it could change into something else.
I'm actually, I think that would require quite a bit of licensing before they could do that. Potentially, I suppose they could apply for those licenses. They could go through down that route, but that would be subject to the state.
The board could consider putting a condition on any approval that it's motorcycle only, and that would transfer to the planning board.
Okay.
As far as site plan goes, it could be a note on the plan.
Okay,
And I think we would welcome that.
all right.
I do believe that Plastow's zoning ordinance just basically defines a vehicular dealership.
It does.
And a vehicular dealership is 2 or more used motor vehicles, display of 2 or more motor vehicles for purpose, display of 2 or more motorcycles. So they actually can lump
Yes.
motorcycles in as vehicles, unfortunately. Because if it was just used cars we're dealing with, this would be a very easy case.
That's how we arrived here.
And they even go so far as defining motor vehicle, where basically a motor vehicle is any self-propelled vehicle designed for operation on a public street, whether or not requiring registration with the state of New Hampshire. So unfortunately, they did write the ordinance as though it was covering all of that, not just used cars,
Yes.
even though we do have a lot of used car dealers in Plastow.
And we imagine that was what it was largely intended to capture here. But yeah, as you note, we do come under that heading.
It's a conundrum as far as the precedent it sets, because if we do this, one of the reasons this was put in is to try to alleviate the overpopulation of the used vehicle situation. So if this is granted, this could be used as a precedent for other things, and that's a concern.
I recognize that. I think, as Ms. Voss was mentioning, the potential for restricting this to a motorcycle business might help alleviate that, I would hope. Again, I think the nature of this business is very different from a car dealership. The impact on the surrounding environment is very different. So while I understand your concern with a precedent, I think if we could circumscribe this to being solely a motorcycle business, that might prevent setting that precedent there, and might allow it to exist without bringing in an automotive dealership to this area.
And I think one last thing, a correction, is that you said it was not a place that could be used as a grocery store. But when it was built, that's what it was. It was a grocery store.
Thank you for the correction. I stand corrected there. I would be impressed to see a grocery store make it there, but I suppose they must have.
Not today's style grocery store,
No,
because the tiny little building in the town center next to my house was the A&P at one
that's right.
and it's about 24 feet wide by 40 feet long. So grocery stores have changed. Does anyone else have questions? Go right ahead. This is your chance.
Yeah, I have some questions. So does Rick's intend to rent the facility?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah. Lease to own, I think.
Lease to own? Okay. I think the building, looking at the building, I believe it has 2 units in it, is that correct? You're taking over both units with the business?
Yes.
How many employees report to your establishment daily currently? I know it might change.
I think it's just the 3. It's a very small family business. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you said 3?
Just 3, yes.
And how many customers per day would you expect
I think it's very seasonal, but
average?
Maybe 1 to 5 in, I would say April to August, and then August to April again, you have 0.
Okay.
And they literally drop off a bike, pick up a bike. Then nobody hangs around, nobody sits there. We don't have party, like, it's not like a conjugation of people who hang out. You drop off a bike for service, or you come to look at a bike inside the showroom, you leave.
Is the majority of the business service versus retail sales?
Yes, I guess it depends. So we do, depending on the time of year.
Yeah.
But we're not doing retail out of there. It's sales and service only.
About how many retail motorcycles do you think you'd
We're
normally like
allowed to do
have?
4 based on our license. I want to say per year, we probably do 8 or 10 tops.
I'm sorry, could I have clarification? You're allowed 4 per,
So 4 is for our license. So we have to sell a minimum of 4 from the state of New Hampshire
in a year, in a month, in
a
a,
year.
okay.
Yep, per year.
So you
based
have
on
to sell
past
4 to
sales-
maintain your license?
Correct.
Okay.
And then based on our sales, it depends on the year. We have to sell 4 to maintain the license, but it could
Right,
be
but
8,
if
could be
we-
10.
If we
Well-
walked into Rick's, like walking into another motorcycle shop, just
So if you walked into
describe-
Plastow Power Sports, what you see there is not what you see in my shop.
Right.
We have maybe 4 to 8 bikes lined up, and everything gets advertised online. Nothing is advertised out front. We don't put for sale signs. We don't put those flags that he mentioned. Everything is all online. So it just depends on if you want to come and look at a bike on a Monday through Friday, or you want to buy it, but everything is all advertised online.
Yeah, and you mentioned Monday through Friday. Are you closed weekends?
We are closed weekends. We
All
have
year round?
year round.
Indeed, to rephrase, we have not received any negative comments from the public.
We'll get that when we get to the public comment
Okay,
section.
sorry.
Okay, what would your policy be as far as test rides and who would,
We don't allow that.
you don't allow
Nope,
test
our
rides?
insurance does not allow it. We don't allow it. It's a problem with, we don't want to put that on our own company as far as a liability. We do not allow test drives. You want to bring the bike outside, turn it on, hear it run? Absolutely. That's where it stops.
Guess if we're all set, is there anyone in the room speaking in favor of this besides you two? Anyone in the room opposing the application? Oh, you can
Gonna need
come to a
to,
microphone
seat our
and
seats, yeah.
actually, I'm gonna take one of those microphones and put it over here. At the end of the table there. If you're gonna come up to speak, I need you to put your name and address here, please. If you don't put it, you don't speak. And I gotta be able to read it, please. So whoever wants
Feel
to go
free.
first?
Do you need my address too?
Yeah, address.
Yes.
Address as
Then you have
well?
to
Please.
actually say it in the microphone.
Then you have to
too.
say it into the microphone, yes.
Okay. Sitting or standing?
Why don't you pull one of the blue chairs over so that you'll be able to be closer to the microphone? Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. My name is Vivian Lucas. I live at 4 Auburn Street in Plastow. My property abuts this property. and I oppose everything about this. The spirit and intent of the ordinance is not observed. The intent of this ordinance is to limit the number of vehicle dealerships. This application violates the ordinance 3 times. Granting this variance harms abutting residential properties. There's no gain to the general public in granting this. The value of the abutting residential properties will be diminished. This is a big concern for us homeowners. There's no hardship. There's nothing unique with the property or its use. A vehicle dealer is a vehicle dealer. A differentiating between an auto and a motorcycle dealership or dealer is like differentiating between dump trucks and automobiles. They all drive. Being a small local business is irrelevant. The variance goes with the land if it's granted. So who knows what comes next if the land is sold? If they have potential to buy, they may not want to do it today, but somewhere down the road they may. New Hampshire laws don't allow for local businesses to be granted preferential treatment when granting a variance. My personal experience, I've lived in my home for a long time now. This has nothing personal, nothing to do with anybody. It's just my experience of living there. There used to be a little variety store back there. An Indian man owned it. He was a neighbor. He sold it. Then it was a video store. Then it became Francesca's. It was a delicatessen. Wonderful people. My late husband and I sat in the backyard one day and we were trying to figure out where all the flies were coming from. We have a beautiful, very old in-the-ground pool where we spent then and still do much of our summer and our time. Flies everywhere. Where are they coming from? It was the dumpster from Francesca's. They were already there. There was nothing we could do about it. And we didn't realize it until one night we were laying in bed and we hear this loud crashing noise because the dumpster was getting emptied. First experience. Then Kidder moved in. We actually came to this very spot and did this very same thing where we were assured of all our concerns and everything. They were going to go by their, they only worked certain hours and it wasn't going to be noisy. All summer long, for as long as they were there, we sat out there and listened to power washing. They would start their motor vehicles, their trucks up 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, constantly. My husband has since passed. He had cancer. He would lay in the bed after having chemo, just trying to get some peace and rest. And this is what we heard all the time. Yet we were assured none of this was going to happen, that they would stick to whatever was agreed upon. And then when you try to confront, or if you were to call the police or do anything, at that point, there's really nothing anybody can do. So I spend a lot of my summer from the beginning, the warm weather starts until the first snow flies, in my backyard, enjoying my pool, trying to entertain. And my wells back there, it's always been a concern if there's oil changes being done, the property sets up just enough, like my well's right there. I would very much prefer to have a business that would be more conducive to having neighbors. We already have a variance in place. It was voted on in town. It was voted on for a reason. And for these reasons, I oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, feel free.
Hi, my name is Natalie Klasaris, and I live at 2 Auburn Street. I'm just going to pull up my speech on my phone.
Natalie, could I have you spell your last name for me, please?
Yes, it's Klesaris.
Thank you.
So I live at 2 Auburn with my fiance, Stephen, who's also here. We have lived here for almost 5 years. We love our home and we love spending time on our porch and outside in the patio. We're practically out there whenever we are home in the nice weather. As Vivian just mentioned, when the previous company was there were always loud noises and disturbances starting at 4 in the morning and going until 10 or 11 at night, and it would wake us out of a sound sleep. My fiance and I are thinking about starting a family soon, and we believe there is no way we would be able to have a baby with a motorcycle shop behind us. I don't think the motorcycle shop will be beneficial to the community at all. In the application, it states that it can't alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the health, safety, or general welfare of the public. I think it will threaten the general health and safety of the public. There will be fumes, oil, noises, traffic surrounding residential homes, not just us abutters, but the whole street. It will also alter the character of the neighborhood. We are all families with nieces and nephews, grandbabies. Ricks also states that the grant of this variance will bring a fair and just outcome by balancing the town's interest with the needs of a small business. The public would gain nothing by denying Rick's opportunity to do business here, which us surrounding and abutting homes beg to differ. We love our peaceful neighborhood. We love our yards without noises. Vivian, again, has firsthand proof because she's lived on the street for over 30 years. Also, throughout the application, it mentions being a small family-owned business, which is irrelevant. There is no guarantee it will stay small or locally owned. Not to mention, a lot of us have tenants. Vivian, that just spoke, has tenants as well. This will greatly impact our business. Who is going to want to live behind a motorcycle shop? This could also be a huge blow to our income. This is how we make money. Lastly, I am also a real estate agent. I truly believe that with this variance, it would lower the value of our homes, and we've been here for a long time. In closing, the town voted this variance in years ago, and there are 3 shops within a little over 400 feet away. It was put in place, this rule was put in place for a reason. Why should we break it? With that being said, I ask that you please don't grant this variance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whew, okay. Hello. Sorry if I,
Don't need to be that close,
okay.
but you're good. Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate it. Could I have your name and address, please?
Stephen Lopez. I live at 2 Auburn Street,
Could I have the last spelling of the last name, please?
Lopez.
Thank you.
Yeah, both me and Natalie and I actually live at the property that's closest to this property here, but it's not shown. We can actually see this property from our own window. And once again, sorry if I may say something that I'm not supposed to. I've never done this before, and I'm pretty nervous as well, which is crazy to say because I don't think I'd be the person to be nervous in a situation like this, but I am, which first of all,
They're all nervous too. so-
yeah. So that right there can kind of show that placing this business here wouldn't really be in the interest of the people surrounding it. First of all, when it comes to safety, that's a big thing for me, at least. And unfortunately, you know, motorcycles are fun, but they are not safe. That's one thing I'm sure everybody in this room can agree on. And it's funny because I actually do myself like cars and motorcycles, but once again, safety is a big thing, and I'm not sure if it has anything to do with this business. But unfortunately, Danville Road is almost like a airstrip for motorcycles. They love to just beam it down the road and use it as an open road, which is cool and all, but once again, that's not safe. And I'm not sure if because of this whole thing going on recently with this business hoping to open up here, that motorcycles have been driving by doing wheelies down the whole entire Danville Road, which once again, I'm not trying to accuse the said business that is going to be opening up, but this is just something that already is happening and needs to be addressed. And I just truly don't think that opening a motorcycle business there would help taking care of this situation. I'm sure it would influence it, actually. I actually sell cars for a living at Toyota. And when we, showcase the vehicle or test drive it, which I know they said they will not be test driving, but of course, even them just having the vehicle or motorcycle idle there, it will affect us in a negative way. We also do have pets, and I'm sure they would be negatively impacted from these noises or, motorcycles idling or being showcased, whether it's inside or outside. And if it is inside, actually, that's not something that should be done, because if the vehicle is running inside, those are fumes that shouldn't be in there. And then another thing too with safety is, I'm sure if they're servicing the vehicles, doing oil changes, maybe doing exhausts, which is what most motorcycles get done on, which is in compliant with emissions. So that once again would cause more fumes and maybe, spillages of oil, which happen everywhere. Like I said, it even happens at Toyota, #1 selling vehicle in America, and it still happens there. But yeah, I could go on all night, but that would be an inconvenience, which this already has been. I've had to take time out of work 2 separate times to be here, which confuses me a little, because I thought that's why this whole variance was here in the first place. But by all means, clearly, the people here of this little area in Plastow would love for this to not be put through. And I guess I'll just stop there, because like I said, I could go all night
Thank you.
if I was allowed. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'll just say something.
Hi, my name's Kim Kopazinski Bedard. KOPACZYNSKI. Bedard, BEDARD. I live at 6 Auburn Street.
I'm sorry, I missed the first name too.
Oh, Kim.
Yeah, thank you.
That was the easy one.
Right, that's the easiest part.
With the other one. Thank you.
You're welcome. Not very good with words, but unfortunately, I just don't see the safety of this. I have a 13-year-old child. She's a daughter. She's my daughter. She rides her bike constantly on where we live. And I know we already have issues with motorcycles, and I have to watch my child constantly to make sure she doesn't get hit by a car. Even a car on our road is dangerous. They drive so fast, and we constantly have the cops down that road, especially during the summertime. My daughter's out there right now, riding her bike. She's outside playing soccer, and our fence hits right next to theirs. My daughter's constantly out there in the summertime. I don't need loud noises. My daughter loves to sleep. It's bad enough we had the trash come at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. She gets woken up. She hears everything. Her hearing is very unique. She's an ADHD person. She has, disabilities. and loud noises. She can't handle motorcycles. She gets scared. She comes running in the house. There was already an accident on our street last year. Actually, unit number 3, right next door to us. She was outside when it happened. She got scared. I just don't feel the safety of having another shop in our area. And that's all I have to say. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Oh, there we go.
Good evening. My name's Monica Sinclair. I live at 6 Auburn Street, Unit 3. I didn't prepare to say anything tonight, and now I'm inclined to talk. I just moved back to town. My parents live on Lower Road. I grew up there my entire life. Talking about that little convenience store, I used to walk there. It was like a penny candy store. I just moved back with my husband to start a family closer to home. And I can see this property in my kitchen. When I look out my kitchen window, I can see right into this property. So I do worry about starting a family and having that right in my backyard. I think Vivian mentioned the property value as well. I bought recently, so I paid way more than I should have for the property, and it is a risk for my property to already be diminished and to have a motor vehicle business in my backyard can also affect that even further. This variance was put in place for a reason, so I just would like that to be considered in tonight's ruling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I ask the gallery a question for clarification?
Feel free.
All of you stated tonight that the variance was put in place for a reason. Did you mean the ordinance?
Yes.
Thank you.
May we request a few moments to respond to some of these concerns?
Could I just
They're all done.
enter one more thing
Yep.
too? I did not receive any emails or
I was
letters.
going to ask you before I went to that.
Well, before they got to rebuttal, I wanted to,
Yep.
so
But
they could do it all at
everyone
once.
here who came is all set, then feel free.
Thank you so much. And first of all, I'd like to say I'm very sorry to hear some of these stories. It sounds like there were some bad neighbors there before. And I just want to emphasize that Rick's very much intends not to be that. Rick's has been in Plastow for 30 odd years. It's very keen on being a good neighbor, and it has been known as one throughout that time. Now, I think Sarah has some things to say specifically to the points here.
I do. So we were on Newton Road for, since 1993. Oh, sorry, 89. We had an apartment complex next to us, a tree farm across the street from us, a storage unit to the left of us for 30 years. We never did anything in this town to create any sort of issue, period. We have 2 teenagers who also go to Timberlane High School. One is now graduated, one is a senior. We do also entertain as well. We have a pool. We ride dirt bikes. Do we want to bother anybody around the neighborhood? Absolutely not. We work 9 to 5. We do not, I don't know this issue or assumption of oil changes. We do not dump the oil on the ground, have a drain into the system. We have 50-gallon drums that get picked up by Safety Clean. We pay for that. Our dumpster we pay for. If anything, we do more for the people around us than we actually do ourselves. We don't want a disturbance, period. We don't want anybody to complain about us. Again, this is our livelihood as well. So for us to be able to go to this place, the only place, period, that is allowed us is huge. On top of that, this safety issue about the airstrip, or like you saying it's an airstrip, that has nothing to do with us. Do we let our customers know? Please do not burn out of here. Please do not come in here with your radio at 80 knots. We make sure our customers know who we are, and if anything, we have our consistent customers who've been with us for 30 years, and they know our rules. And I appreciate them coming to show their concerns, but we've been in Plastow for 30 plus years.
And sorry, if I can add to that, Rick's is also an inspection business. It's going to take efforts to make these motorcycles more compliant with issues like noise complaints, etc.
That's it, yeah.
It's here to help.
We have to have an inspection license. He has to go through inspection class and have the state come down and inspect him about the rules, the regulations, the laws, you name it. We have to go through all of it, and not just once, and we'll get audited. He'll come down randomly and say, where are your tools? Show me what you got. And if we don't, we get fined. So do we want to follow the rules? We have to follow the rules. And we don't want to make an issue for any neighbor. And I get it. Their kids, their pools, understand it because we have one too. But we do everything that we can to prevent any sort of disturbance between our neighbors, period.
Thank you.
I
And
didn't mean to cut you off.
No, absolutely not. And sorry, just to further add here, I think that, as I've mentioned, I think that a motorcycle business is a much lesser impact on this than people are imagining. I would also note that the choice of what goes here isn't between an opera house and, unspoiled old growth woodland. It's between the motorcycle business and the other options that are available in the ordinance now. And right now there are permitted a funeral parlor, drive-through restaurants, etc. There are a number of uses there that would have a far higher impact on this that would proceed without the need for a variance. And I think with that,
Good.
we would like to leave it.
I have a few more questions as well.
Oh, sorry. Yes, please.
Feel free
Okay.
before we.
Yeah, just the public comment brought up some more questions for me. What was the reason for leaving Salem? You said you moved to Salem briefly and didn't work out, or it's not for you, or whatever. What was the reason?
To ultimately bring that, so we had a 4 to 5 year lease, which we went through. The space for us ended up just not working out. The people coming in were great, so we moved out of there. We thought that we could find a place that was a better option for us in the meantime, and we didn't. So there was like nothing negative or bad. It just didn't fall. The pieces just didn't fall into place moving forward.
Okay. And
Had nothing to do with complaints about like any neighbors or anything. If anything, they came into our building every day of the week, coming to say hi to us, see what we're doing. We actually made friends with all of our neighbors.
Okay, great. I know I asked before, how many employees, how many, customers. I guess the customers might indicate how many motorcycles, but just on average, like per month, per year, how many motorcycles do you guys work on?
So we're now in almost the end of April. I think we probably have 5 motorcycles here, like even calling us, which we can't do anything with yet. We have maybe 5 motorcycles. How it was maybe 5 years ago, we would already had 15 to 20 waiting for service.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore.
Are most of them dropped off from trailers, or are they driven there, or a combination
It
of the two?
depends. They either come in, they have someone pick them up.
Yeah.
Today, I can't say it today, but we have a customer who will drop off on a trailer. It just depends on their situation. Worst case scenario, we actually go pick up the bike if they can't drop it off.
Mhm.
So if they probably stay maybe 5 minutes to fill out a work order and they leave.
Do you have a specific type of motorcycle you work on, or is this any motorcycle?
Oh,
Right. Yeah, that's all I have.
Anyone else? Then I guess we will close this portion of the public meeting and go into deliberations. We can't accept any more information from applicants or anyone else. Can someone on the board make a motion?
I'm going to ask you to return to the gallery, please.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Nope, a motion on,
Hold on 1 second real quick. Before you close the public hearing officially, we have some suggested conditions that were discussed earlier
okay.
that you might want to discuss with the applicant, just in case some of them might be problematic to them.
That's true. It was on the next page.
Yeah. And
Guy that was nervous, I'm nervous too. This is my first time doing this.
and one thing that was brought up as part of the discussion would be to potentially add a condition that the planning board add a note to the plan that it be for motorcycles only.
Cycles only. I already noted that on here. Some of the conditions, before we close the public hearing, you do know that if we're to grant the application, you then need to make an application to the planning board to amend the site plan. And this will be a condition of any approval of this board. The normal time given to apply to the planning board is 90 days. And would that time frame work for you people? Okay. If for some reason you can't meet the conditions of that approval, you must file to reopen the variance public hearing in order to extend the deadline, because if the variance expires, that's it. It's gone. What else do we have here? That's about it. Did I miss anything, Dee?
No, and just adding that the note would be suggested to the note to the planning board that it be motorcycles only.
To be, can I make a note on that? We have zero intentions of going for a used car, any of that.
The reason for doing that is because if this property gets sold, the site plan is
I totally
forever.
agree with you. I totally agree. As far as our shop goes, we have zero intentions of
The
doing
variance does run with the property, not with your business.
100% agree. And I think the motorcycle only should be put in place for that fact, so we don't deal with any of that.
We ready to close the public meeting now?
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks. Can we get a motion on this application?
I'll give it a shot. I move to grant the request for a variance from Article 3, paragraph 220-16B to allow a motorcycle vehicle dealership within 1,000 feet of another motor vehicle dealership for the property located at 22 Danville Road and noticed in the legal notice as 25-02 with the following conditions. The applicant must file for a planning board site plan approval within 90 days of the date of this decision. If the applicant does not file for a planning board site plan approval within 90 days or requests an extension from the zoning board of adjustment with enough time to renotice and reopen the public hearing prior to the expiration of the 90 days, this variance shall be considered as denied. The site plan would be for only the sales of motorcycles. No other type of vehicles would be approved for this site.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Okay, so we now have to go down the criteria ourselves as well, and any of you feel free to chime in at any time. Number one, the proposed variance will not be contrary to public interest because, well,
I think we've heard from the public interest.
yeah, we've heard from a small portion of the public.
Well, the abutters.
Right, exactly. But overall in the public, one of the other issues is this zoning ordinance was put in place for a reason, because they were afraid that Plastow would become basically the, mecca for motor vehicle.
That's right.
And if there was ever a downturn in the economy and that industry, whether it be cars, motorcycles, etc., we could kind of end up with a ghost town. I remember it being discussed when this ordinance was put in place, because I'm a car guy and I wasn't necessarily in favor of it at the time. But it was true. They were looking out for having a variety of businesses and not potentially having a bunch of vacant buildings. Any input on that first?
And from my perspective, I think I'm a free market guy. Not saying that I wouldn't like a much greater diversity of businesses in town, but from my perspective, the businesses that exist that go into available spaces are the businesses that the public ultimately is demanding if the businesses stay in business. So, from my perspective, I pertaining to the public comments, I mean, I'm in a butter of an existing property that has lots of traffic and lots of noise and dumpsters clanging early in the morning, and I sympathize with that. But for me personally, I mean, I bought the property next door to that property. I think this has been a long-standing property, and the property owner has the right to rent it, and a business will go in there ultimately, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, so I think that it's a nuance from automobile to motorcycle. Understood. That's what the ordinance does indicate motorcycle as well. But yeah, so it's a bit of a conundrum because it is a commercial property that's always going to, not always necessarily. I don't know if is residential even allowed in.
It is
So it
in the
could-
overlay district.
It could
part.
theoretically be converted to residential later, but the likelihood of that is
Yeah.
probably small.
Not unless they knock the building down. I don't think a residence is going to be in that style of building.
Maybe not.
And you are right, because when you move in, I live in a commercial zone, and when you move into a commercial zone, there are going to be noises and things that you don't have in a strictly residential zone. You hear the dumpster slam, because I do hear dumpsters slam. You hear sometimes things at night, as I do as well, but it's just something we look at when we purchase our properties and make that decision. Because looking at it, I don't know an exact construction date, but it looks like this building's been there for quite a while.
It's been there since the late 70s.
Right, so quite a while. Number 2, the spirit and intent of the ordinance is preserved because, just myself personally, if they said used car dealers or automotive dealerships, I agree 100%, but the ordinance, the way it was written and the way the town voted on it, includes everything, basically everything with a motor. And again, it is different, but at the same token, once there's a variance put in, it doesn't mean that something else can't end up in there or something larger. It's certainly different than all the used car dealerships around the town. But looking at what was voted on, the description of a motor vehicle, the description of a vehicular dealership, what people voted on was this. The sale or display of 2 or more new used motorcycles that require New Hampshire state registration and inspection. If people didn't want that, they shouldn't have voted on it. Any other input?
I agree.
I think what you're drawing upon is that it doesn't meet that 1,000-foot distance criteria.
Right.
Under any circumstances, and we really can't disavow that in the regulations. How do we prove something that doesn't meet that requirement?
So for instance, or an example, if one of the other dealerships that are within that, I mean, they're all closer than 1,000 feet of each other. If it were to shut down, that property would be grandfathered, and another automobile dealership could move in, or a motorcycle, or
If any of the existing dealerships, all the existing dealerships, even though they're close to each other, are considered to be grandfathered, they existed prior to this prohibition of the 1,000-foot. If any of them leave, they have up to 1 year to be reoccupied to preserve the use. If that 1 year expires, they've lost that grandfathering use.
So they'd be back
Okay.
here.
okay. So a motorcycle dealership could move into one of those businesses technically within that year if they wanted to, if it were to come available.
Correct.
I think part of the problem in Plastow for small businesses is there's not a lot of real estate available to rent, to own, in order to operate those businesses. And I think we've seen some changes in the zoning, this past election cycle for allowing things at homes. We're not talking a home I understand there's homes abutting. But, okay.
So number 3, substantial justice in granting the variance because any loss to the individual that is not outweighed by a gain to the general public is an injustice. Well, there's certainly substantial justice to the business owner and the owner of the property that can get a viable tenant. I know it is kind of tough right now renting commercial property. That's what I look at commercial property for a living, and there's a lot of vacancy out there. But I guess we have to be the ones to decide if that outweighs any. Well,
Excuse me, Jim, are you talking about the owner of the property or the business renting the property?
well, both, because the business wants to rent the property, and the owner wants to have income as well.
But he
so
could, by
he
the
could
same
rent
token, he could get another tenant supposedly.
Right. Yep. Oh, yeah. I think there's certainly, as was mentioned, there's certainly a number of businesses that could move in there. Sounds like some of them in the past weren't necessarily desirable. Depends on, choose your poison. If you want stinky dumpsters or motorcycle noise, it's just part of living near a commercial zone. Any input on number 3? Looking for help. I don't talk as much as the previous chairman.
All right, you're doing good.
Number 4, values of surrounding properties will not be diminished because, well,
I don't think we can say that.
I don't think we're experts on that. And unfortunately, this is very general. The wrong business in there could certainly diminish the values of the properties, and the right business in there won't.
I think just the nature of the building, there's
There's
when
gonna be.
anyone buys a property, they're gonna know there's a commercial business there. and-
There's gonna be some sort of business there, and I think if someone who abuts the backyard, doesn't really necessarily have a say on the business if they meet zoning. So you could have some problematic businesses move in.
And as we're seeing, it can change with time as well, and situations can change as well.
Yep.
I ended up with a bar in my backyard during COVID because the Legion couldn't operate inside. So for a year, which we were very lenient of because of what was going on, 75 feet from our bedroom, we had a bar, but
Oh, it's outside? I didn't know that.
yeah, they had an outdoor bar for a while. And we were very lenient the first year, but once they went inside for the winter and the bar was being set up again outside, we then said something. So some of this is communication between abutters and business owners as well. Obviously, if you want to stay and have a peaceful existence, you want to make friends with neighbors and have an open line of communication and respect each other. So I think and that's a wild card too. You never know. But over time, things can change, even with the same business use.
Well, it
Can
can, and
affect
it can
butters
change
if
for the good or the bad. I mean, you could
Right.
have a small mom and pop motorcycle business now, but if it's sold and it became a Harley Davidson dealership or something to that nature, all of a sudden there's lots of motorcycles and lots of noise. And it'll already had its variance to move forward with that. So,
Right, there'd be nothing that could be done.
right.
What other, and this is my apologies for my ignorance, what other uses are allowed in that?
There's a whole list in the zoning ordinance. It's
Quite wide?
It's
Pretty
pretty
general.
lengthy, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the just for your educational purposes, the Danville Road overlay allows for them to also have combined residential and commercial uses in the same building, provided one or the other is owner occupied.
And we have some of that.
We'd have to look it up, but a good amount of businesses could be in there. And
All I'm saying, so this, whether this produces lots of noise or not, I mean, obviously, there's gonna be noise because you're starting up motorcycles. You can't insulate all of that. You know, I think public comment the previous business had lots of noise as well, for other reasons. There could be any number of things could create more noise, so I think just the main question is just the 1,000 foot and whether that should be granted or not.
And number 5, literal enforcement of the provision of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. This one's worded a little bit odd because in New Hampshire, we're not allowed to consider personal hardships or financial hardships. They're talking about hardships on the property. And this property has been numerous businesses in the past. I just don't see it having a hardship that
No.
runs with the property.
No,
I
not
would
at all.
think that the owner could rent it somehow. And unfortunately, because we've had a number of people come in here over the years, seeing the word hardship, and they think it's financial or they think it's personal, we're not allowed to consider that at all. Our hardship definition runs with the property. In other words, there has to be something with this property that makes your use more reasonable than a permitted use. And again, just myself, I think the building could be a bunch of different uses. Any input?
I agree.
I agree.
Everyone all set?
Yes.
No more? Should we call a vote?
Okay. Ryan LeBrecq,
I vote yes to grant the variance.
Daryl Britton,
I have to vote no.
Jim Unger,
I'd say no.
Michael Murray,
I vote no.
Jim O'Brien.
No.
Your vote is 1-4-0, and the motion does not pass. I have listed the reasons that you felt that it does not meet the spirit and intent of the ordinance. Kind of neutral on the property values, no evidence either way, does not meet the substantial justice test, and does not meet the hardship test.
Works for me.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Would you like me to read the next
Yeah, please
application?
read the next application.
Okay. Folks, we still have the meeting going on. I need you can go talk downstairs. That would be awesome. Thank you. The next 3 are interrelated. Would you like me to read them together?
Please.
Okay. Case number 25-03, a request from Schofield Builders LLC, care of Dwayne Schofield, for a variance from Article 4, Section 220-18.3.d, to allow a structure to be placed 72.1 feet from a wetland where the minimum wetland buffer setback is 75 feet. The property is located at 5 Rhodes Ave, tax map 29, lot 7 in the C1 zoning district. The property owners of record are Dwayne and Pamela J. Schofield. Case number 25-04, a request from Schofield Builders LLC, care of Dwayne Schofield, for a variance from Article 5, Table 22032I, to allow a structure to be placed 10 feet from the side setback, where 35 feet is the minimum required. The property is located at 5 Rose Ave, tax map 29, lot 7, in the C1 zoning district. The property owners of record are Dwayne and Pamela J. Schofield. Case number 25-5, a request from Schofield Builders LLC, care of Dwayne Schofield, for a variance from Article 5, Table 22032I, to allow a structure to be placed 20.8 feet from the front setback, where 50 feet is the minimum required. The property is located at 5 Rose Ave, tax map 29, lot 7, in the C1 zoning district. The property owners of record are Dwayne and Pamela J. Schofield. I just wanted to note for the board that in your packets was received at 5 o'clock this afternoon is a letter from the Conservation Commission. It is their recommendation that regarding 25-3, a variance is not required, but a conditional use permit from the planning board. You may want to think about withdrawing that one and just going to the planning board for it.
Okay. And let's see.
For your plan up.
Perfect, even better. So, good evening, Bill Hall with
Don't
SCC.
talk till I get back to my bed.
Okay.
Can't write and do computer at the same time.
There's your plan. This does this.
Okay,
And it moves. Yeah,
Perfect.
And I also have a laser pointer if you'd like.
this will work, I think.
Well, they won't be able to see whatever you're pointing at on the screen.
Yep,
So you have to point to it up there.
yeah. Thank you. Do we have that map in here?
I'm sorry?
Do we have that map in here?
That's right there. You're open to it.
Oh, okay, super. So for the record, I'm Bill Hall with SEC and Associates, and I'm representing the applicant for this variance application.
I do have a letter authorizing Mr. Hall and SEC to represent the applicant.
So this property is situated approximately 200 feet west of the intersection of Rose Avenue and Route 125.
Bill, can I interrupt for one quick second?
Sure.
Do you want to make some consideration about the first application before you go through the whole thing?
Sure. I mean, if it's, if we don't think that that's necessary to.
The
get that-
Conservation Commission is saying it is not, that it's
Okay.
only a conditional use permit. And I had a discussion with them this afternoon, and I would be in agreement with them.
Okay, yeah, if that's the case, then I would say we would just withdraw that.
Okay?
And excuse me, Dee, just for my edification.
Sure.
What is the process for receiving this conditional use permit?
There, I gave you a copy of, attached to the Conservation Commission letter that I put in your folder this afternoon that shows what the requirements are for the planning board to grant a conditional use permit. There is a list there of different things they need to do. Yes,
Okay, thank you.
sure. So are we officially withdrawing 25-3?
Yeah, if it's not necessary, then
Okay.
I'd say we withdraw that.
I just didn't want you to go through it all if it's just gonna,
Oh, it's fine. It's the same thing either way. So, so yeah, it's approximately 0.8 acre lot, and the property has approximately 165 feet of frontage on Rose Avenue, and it's located within the C1 commercial district. We have vegetated wetlands that are at the rear of the lot. Those can be seen back here. And we have both the 50-foot limited use buffer and 75-foot parking and structure buffer that extend onto the site. So that's through here for the 50 and then down here for the 75. There's an existing approximately 1,700 square foot dwelling that's located on the site, built around the 1920s, that's in a deteriorated condition, and it's supported by a private well and on-site sewage disposal system. Should be noted that this is not an allowed use in the district. There's no residential use allowed in the C1, and the dwelling is located in this area here. It's very tight to the side property line. It's 3.3 feet, I believe, on this side here. It's also very close to the front property line, and it's actually almost entirely within the front and side yard setbacks. We have the side yard setback here, the front yard setback comes across, and then our other side, and then to the back, we have a 75-foot buffer. So it's a very restricted site. Our project involves the demolishing of the existing dwelling and constructing a 3,750 square foot trade business What structure. kind of business? I'm sorry. Trade businesses. So I'll get to that Okay. a little bit more. Let me just scroll. This is our, actually, it's probably better to go to this one. This is our proposed building with the existing shown underneath that. So it's a 3,750 square foot structure, and we are proposing 3 trade business units in it, accessed by 2 driveways. So we have a driveway here with parking adjacent and a bay here and a bay here. And then we have a driveway accessing this bay here. And basically the intent is that the use would be a trade business, which is an allowed use in the district. And it would be something where like plumbers, electricians, things of that nature could show up to the garage. They keep all their materials inside the garage. Maybe they keep a van in the garage. They would pack what they need for a job in the morning, go to their job, come back in the afternoon, drop off their van inside, maybe put their materials back, and then go back home. Not intended to have any sort of manufacturing or anything like that in there, just trade business uses. And as I mentioned, this is a use that conforms with zoning where the existing dwelling is a non-conforming use. That said, we still require dimensional variances, though our dimensional variances will decrease the nonconformity in comparison to what's out there now. So what we'd be seeking, since withdrawing that wetland setback, is we would be seeking the side yard and the front yard setbacks. So I believe that is Article 4, Section 220-32I.
It's Article 5.
Sorry, Article 5. Yeah, you're right. Okay. I had the wrong one crossed out. So that's Section 220-32.B.C then, if I'm not mistaken.
That's the one you're taking out.
Okay, so I have them both.
So it
mixed.
is Article 5, Section 220-32I. It's a table.
Okay, gotcha. So that's both, as I mentioned, front and side setbacks that we would need relief for. And part of this, as I alluded to earlier, was that when we go back to this existing conditions plan, just because it's easier to see, we have this very odd shaped buildable area that would be in here. And it's 2,800 square feet in total through here. But it's not of a shape that's really usable because it's so narrow in this area. You'd be very, very limited to fit any commercial building within that setback. So what would be what we'd be seeking on the side yard is the existing setback. The required setback, first of all, is 35 feet. The existing setback for the non-conforming dwelling in this area here is 3.3 feet, and we'd be increasing that to a 10-foot side yard setback. And I guess it should be noted that the use over here is also a commercial use. It's within the same district. The front yard setback required is 50 feet. Currently, in this area here, it's an 18-foot setback that's existing, and we'd be increasing that to 20.8 feet, again, improving on the existing conditions. In addition to that, we'd be upgrading the septic system. We are proposing an area here for a new septic system. We're also proposing an area in front for a roof dry well to capture runoff from this structure and infiltrate it into the ground. Again, an improvement of what's out there. So with that, I can go through the 5 criteria. So 1, the proposed variance will not be contrary to the public interest because the proposed trade business use is an allowed use in the C1 zone and aligns with the surrounding commercial character of the abutting commercial uses. The existing non-conforming dwelling is in a deteriorated condition and is not an allowed use. And further, the proposed building improves upon the existing non-conforming dimensions. 2, the spirit and intent of the ordinance is preserved because the existing single-family dwelling is a non-conforming use within the C1 district, and the proposed development will conform with the use of the zone and also decrease the nonconformity of the existing dimensional setbacks. 3, there is substantial justice in granting the variance because The lot is heavily constrained by dimensional setbacks and wetland buffer requirements, leaving only approximately 2,800 square feet of building area, which is not practical for any meaningful development. Strict adherence to the ordinance would only render the lot nearly unusable, imposing an unnecessary hardship to the property owner without providing a significant benefit to the general public. 4, the values of the surrounding properties will not be diminished because the existing dwelling is inconsistent with the surrounding commercial development. Replacing it with a modern commercial structure will enhance the overall appearance and functionality of the area and would actually likely result in an increase in property values. Literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. A, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because, again, this lot is heavily constrained by dimensional setbacks and wetland buffers, and strict adherence to this ordinance would render the lot nearly unusable, imposing an unnecessary hardship. B, the proposed use is a reasonable one because the property currently contains a non-conforming use, which is not allowed in the commercial zoned area, and the trade business use is permitted in appropriate use within the C1 zoning district. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions that the board may have.
I have some.
Go right ahead.
Septic.
Yes,
How are you doing your setbacks on your septic?
we'll meet all state and local regulations.
Okay. Well,
There's an existing well that we intend to reuse. It's located adjacent to the wetlands in this general area here.
okay. And in this plan, is there any place for any kind of an MDC trap for vehicles that are out there because you're so close to the wetland?
You're saying like an oil and gas trap? We haven't gotten to that level of detail of the design yet,
Okay.
but that's something that we'd accept as a condition.
Okay. And then I think the last thing is that you're asking for relief on setbacks that are very, very large. It's not like we're talking a couple of 3 feet. I mean, these are huge setback reliefs.
Yeah, I understand that. But again, we are improving the setbacks that are on the site. Not only the setbacks, but also the use, because we'd be bringing it to a conforming use. And we're just very constrained with what would be essentially this small area for something that would be conforming.
Okay. Those were my questions.
I have a few. These 3 units, are they intended to be rented or sold as condos or
I believe would be rented.
rental units?
Yeah.
Okay. The businesses could change. That's all I had.
And it looks like the sideline that you're getting very close to, your neighbor's building, is about as far away as possible on his lot. So you're not right up, like, building to building.
That's correct.
Because he's
Yeah.
got parking over there, or actually it's used trucks right now, because it's now a used car lot.
Yeah, and their parking does get, this is the edge of their parking
Yeah.
on that lot as well, just for
Right.
some reference.
So it's not like you're going to have 20 feet between, a little alleyway between buildings.
No, not at all.
It looks like we don't have anyone in our vast audience speaking in favor or opposing this.
Call it for the record anyway.
Did we have any correspondence?
None.
No correspondence on this? Anyone have any more questions before we go into deliberation? Anything else for you to add?
I don't believe so.
You're all set? Okay, so I'll say we will close that portion of the meeting and go into deliberations. Can someone do the motion?
Bill, we're going to have you sit back. Thank you.
Are we doing motions on?
Oh, again, this is another one with conditions that we should be discussing with the applicant. All the commercial ones, we do put these general conditions on for the planning board.
Oh, so it's the same conditions as the last one.
They're similar,
I just
just
have to find it.
because this is a ground-up construction, a little bit more leeway was given for the time to get it to the planning board.
No, it's not the same as the last one.
Similar.
Yeah, I know, but I need to find it to read it, is what I'm getting at. There we go.
It's the same for all three of them, correct? That we have.
Correct, but
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
vote, well, one's been
Two.
withdrawn. The
Correct.
wetlands one has been withdrawn.
Correct, right.
So you do need to vote separately on them, but the conditions are the same, correct? Yes.
The question on the wetlands one,
Sure.
if they, and I'm not familiar with conditional use versus
Sure.
variance. Well, I am familiar with it, but if they move forward, we voted on a variance and they were granted a variance, they wouldn't need a conditional use, correct? And vice versa?
No, they would still need a conditional use permit because the
They'd still
ordinance
need it?
specifically says that
Okay.
for this type of use, and structures, they need a conditional use permit.
Okay, so it makes sense to just go right to conditional use.
Correct, correct.
Sounds good.
So basically, the conditions are, you have to file with the planning board within 120 days of the application.
Yep.
You know that if you do not file for planning board site plan approval within 120 days, you need to come back and request an extension from the ZBA with enough time for us to renotice and reopen the public hearing prior to that expiration of the 120 days, or the variance is considered as denied. So
Yep.
that's okay with you?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, so now I guess, can we have a motion?
Thank you, sorry.
Problem.
We need to vote on these one at a time, and you want to start with 2504. Which is at the bottom of page 3.
I move to grant the request for variance from Article 5, Table 220-32I, to allow building to be placed 10 feet from the side property line, where 35 feet is the minimum required setback for the property located at 5 Rose Ave, as noted in ZB application number 25-04 in the legal notice with the following conditions. The applicant must file for planning board site plan approval within 120 days of the date of this decision. If the applicant does not file for planning board site approval within 120 days or request an extension from the zoning board of adjustment with enough time to re-notice and reopen the public hearing prior to the expiration of the 120 days, this variance shall be considered as denied.
Second?
Second.
Okay, so we'll go down the criteria again, and like I said last time, anyone chime in when they want to. Number one, the proposed variance will not be contrary to the public interest. I kind of agree with what they're saying with replacing a non-conforming use with a conforming use. So it's going with what that zoning was envisioning for that area when the zoning was developed. Any other input?
Pretty straightforward.
Spirit and intent of the ordinance is preserved because, again, we're replacing a non-conforming use with a conforming use. So we're trying to get actually closer to conforming with the ordinance than it does now.
Yeah, I think that while this is the 10-foot setback, right?
Yes.
While it's 10-foot comparative to 35-foot, driving by the property and looking at the property today on either side, I don't think a 10-foot versus 35-foot is going to help or hurt
Right.
the neighbors. The neighboring properties are a car dealership with parking lot, and then the other side looks like another contractor type garage situation. It's not a residential property next door. And I think the building placement separates the buildings between properties as much as possible, so.
Yeah.
As opposed to putting the building on the other side to the left, so.
Anyone else? Number 4, the values of the surrounding properties will not be diminished because, again, not being a real estate appraiser, I think getting a nice new shiny building in an area that conforms to what should be there versus a rundown dwelling can certainly raise the property values even.
It won't
At least.
diminish it.
It won't diminish it, put it that way. Exactly.
Definitely not.
If you're moving in and looking what's next door, it should look a lot nicer going forward.
And I think from the public, the few houses that are on that road, driving by a new building will be better than driving by what's there currently.
Yep. Number 5, literal enforcement of the provision of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. No fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because, well, this is something we run into a lot in Plastow is where all of the, not all, but in any given zone, a lot of the older lots do not comply with the new zoning that was thrust upon them. If this was a new lot, it would want to be 80,000 square feet. It's not even half of that. So of course, to me, those setbacks were developed as a reasonable amount if you had 80,000 square feet.
Yeah.
When you have 39,000 square feet, it's a whole different thing. So to me, there is a hardship on this property in that if he had to comply to all the setbacks, he showed us up there what you'd be dealing with. You'd be dealing with a very small buildable area that wouldn't really be suitable for any commercial structure. So to me, I think this lot meets the hardship test personally. Anyone else?
Yeah, that, with the limited area, you can actually build on that lot considering the wetlands and the other items. I don't see much other choice, for it. It is a hardship on the land itself.
Anybody else want to add anything or can we get a vote?
Call the roll. Daryl Britton,
Yes?
Jim Unger,
Yes?
Michael Murray,
Yes,
Jim O'Brien,
Yes.
Ryan LeBrick.
Yes.
Your vote is 5-0-0 and the motion passes.
So now we have the next.
Now you have 25-5. Yes, please.
So we need a.
That's easy. Ditto.
That's what I was going to say. Can we do it? Is there a way to do a
still have
ditto?
to say it.
You can, it would be reasonable to say that you feel that the criteria of the first one
Yeah.
are applicable.
But we need a motion for it.
You
either
do need
way.
a motion first. Yes, please.
Motion made.
You have to say this motion that's right here.
It's written out.
Can't put it in the record if you don't say it.
Give me the motion. I figured you could, but. I move to grant request for the variance of Article 5, Table 220-321, letter I, to allow building to be placed 20.8 feet from the front property line where 50 is a minimum required setback for the property located at 5 Rose Ave and noted in the ZBA application 25-05 in the legal notice with the following conditions. I'll read those conditions. The applicant must file for the planning board site approval within 120 days of the date of decision. If the applicant does not file within the 120 days of the request of the extension of the planning board adjustment with enough time to renotice and reopen the public hearing prior to the expiration of 120 days, this variance shall be considered denied.
Can we get a second?
Second,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we need to go down the 5 criteria. And this is where we can, at least myself can say, as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much identical to everything I said previous. If anyone wants to order or add anything,
I concur.
Concur as well.
then I'd say we call the roll.
Okay, Jim Unger,
Yes.
Michael Murray,
Yes,
Jim O'Brien,
Yes.
Ryan Ubrecht,
Yes.
sorry, new names, I'm sorry, Darrell Britton.
Yes.
Your vote is 5-0-0, and the motion passes.
Okay. Do we have any other business, Dee?
Just to let you know, I put a couple of other treats in your folders tonight. There's a list of some training opportunities that are available. They're all free, so, and you are welcome to sign up for them. The other thing I included is kind of a fun thing that NHMA, New Hampshire Municipal Association, puts out. And it's a copy of an article that they published for everybody to take a look at. It's been around for a long time, and every so often it comes back up to the top, and we distribute it out. It's kind of an informative with a little bit of a humor about functioning of boards and committees, particularly land use boards and committees. It's just for your reading pleasure.
and just want to mention that in the, what are they, our bylaws, that within our terms, we're supposed to attend and how many hours of training?
You're supposed to attend at least one training at least once during your term, during each term.
So, and then we have plenty of opportunities.
So you can knock it off real quick. Yep. The one that is on, I believe it is May 10th. It's a long one, but it's a really good one. And you can attend virtually. You don't have to go in person. I don't think there's an option to go in person this year.
No.
That used to be one of the best ones to go to. The food was phenomenal. But now they do them, so many of them virtually
Given
now.
that it's virtual, I wish they would do it January 10th instead of May 10th.
I know.
personally.
I know the weather is so much nicer in January, but you don't have boards in place, new boards in place in January.
Okay, anything else, or are
We, do we shred any of this stuff?
You
What-
can leave
what's
it there and I'll be happy to deal with it. If you take it home, you do need to know that it is subject to subpoena. If you have it in your possession, so
Well, it's with you then.
that's what I thought
them
for the
all,
most
Staying
part.
with you.
The green folders stay with me. Please do not take them home. But there's nothing, you can close the meeting, Mr. Chair, and I don't have.
I call this meeting closed at 8:08 PM.